Here we have a Dyson DC58, DC59 and V6. We're going to open up and explore the insides. So first, you're going to have to remove the filter. You can remove from the top. You're going to get a screwdriver so we can disassemble the filter. There's the filter part and the plastic part. So here I'm showing you the grooves. There's actually 3 grooves on this. So I'm using a spoon. You can use a screwdriver or something thin. So the idea is you need to insert it between the gap and dislodge it and pry it out. So be careful when you're prying it. If you pry it too hard, the plastic's quite soft and it'll actually break. Even if it breaks, it's not a big deal. It still holds in place, as long as you don't break all 3 of them. So the idea is to get your prying tool underneath it and dislodge it off the hook or the clip. Once one side is disconnected, you can start pressing it inwards or squeezing it, and it will allow you to remove the other sides a lot easier. If this is the first time you ever done this, it's actually quite difficult to remove, as it's actually quite hard. So here I have removed it. I'm just going to show you. So when you remove it like this, you'll find a lot of dust inside. You can shake it like this if you haven't cleaned yours yet. So here I'm showing you again. There's these grooves that come out and they go into these holes, and this is how they clip together. So you just push it down and it clips. So next, we're going to remove the vacuum cleaner. So you have to remove the bin. So by opening the bin and then pressing the open bin button again all the way down, it will dislodge your bin part. So when you put back a bin, you need to know that there's a part here that sticks out, which has to go in first before you snap it in. Majority of you guys will know this if you have ever removed your bin, which you should have, to clean and remove the contents inside it. So I'm just going to remove the bin from another direction to show you, in case you don't know. As you can see, it tilts. So the idea of it, you need to tilt it slightly before you can straighten it up again to remove it out of the notch. So with the bin, you can remove the rubber. So you get a prying tool and you can put it between the rubber and the plastic. And after that, you can actually just remove it by your hand. So be gentle. You might rip the rubber. For those who haven't done this for a long time, since this vacuum cleaner is quite old, the rubber might be hard and you might be able to rip it. Remember, when you put the rubber back, remember to put the right side back in. So there's 2 flat sides. One side is shorter and one side is longer. Remember to put it back in and align it correctly. So as you can see, you should put in the circle part first before you do the outsides. Make sure your rubber is straight and aligned correctly, because it's possible that if you don't line it correctly, you might have your rubber misaligned or folded over each other, which makes your seal have a hole or have a gap. So I didn't press the center in properly. That's basically it. Next, we're going to move to this. So for this, you're going to need some tool. So I'm using this, which we call pliers. So the idea is you need to insert your pliers. There's 2 white dots inside. It's difficult to see, but the idea is you need to clamp the 2 dots together so it can release the vacuum, the motor part and the Cyclone heating. So once you put your pliers inside, you squeeze those 2 parts together and you put pressure on both sides to split it apart. Once it's split apart, you don't need your prying tool anymore. And by wiggling it left, right, up, down, you'll be able to get the two parts detached. So here we go. I'm just going to show you again using the pliers what you have to achieve. You can do this with chopsticks as well. So here you go. So the idea is to get the pliers in and then squeeze the pliers together. It will actually, by squeezing the pliers together, it squeezes this white thing. And then you can, by squeezing the white thing together, it releases the Cyclone from the motor. It is a bit difficult, but a reminder, you need to squeeze it together. And you need to get two parts. So if you have one part, it won't work well. So this is how you put it back. So if you just put a bit of force into it, it will align correctly and it will come back. I'm just going to do it again for you to show you how difficult it is or how easy it should be. It's not that difficult once you understand the concept. So I've got my pliers in. Now I have to squeeze the two white things together, and in the time that I'm squeezing two white things together, I'm separating the two parts. Once I've separated the two parts and there's a small gap, you can then release your pliers and just wiggle it right, left, right, and it'll come off. This is just an example to show you. So you can do this with chopsticks, and I have done this with chopsticks before. So next we're going to disassemble this Cyclone part. We're going to disassemble the mesh first. I'm using a spoon, and I recommend you to use a spoon if you want to disassemble this part. Do not use a prying tool. So this is just an example that you can actually remove this without a prying tool by grabbing it and concentrating on each side slightly and pulling it apart. Once you rotate round and round, it will slowly come apart, and until this happens. As you can see, you don't need a prying tool, but I've shown you two methods so you understand. I'm pointing out the clips here, and there's a notch here. So this only goes into one direction and facing one direction only. So once you have aligned, you can just snap it in by pushing it in. So here are the clips I'm pointing out. There's 5 clips or hooks that make the filter attached to the Cyclone. So once you get them out, they come out. This is why you can pry each side, like pull apart each side individually. And by moving around, it will come off. So now I'm going to pry it open with my spoon. So we find a gap. You put your spoon around. Remember to try to find where those hooks are. And then you can pry that part out only, as that's the only part holding the filter down. So now that we remove this part, next we can detach this, the base to the top, or whatever you like to call it. So I'm pointing out the screws that you need to remove. So you need a hex screwdriver for this. I think it's a T6. Or it's not hex, sorry, torque screwdriver. I think it's a T6 or T8. So I'm just showing you in the video. So that's a T8. You need a torque T8 screwdriver or a screw head or tip. You need to remove the screws from the vacuum cleaner. I'm just using a longer handle as it makes it easier. After you remove this part, you'll find that your screwdriver, it might not be long enough, or your tip might not be long enough and small enough to fit in the hole. So I'm going to tell you a tip in advance. So you can put a rock into your magnetic head to make it extend that tip just slightly bit further, as that's all you need to reach the hole after this step. You'll see in the video later that I put a screwdriver in there. Don't put a screwdriver in there because the screwdriver is magnetic, and it makes it really difficult to remove the screwdriver inside a hole when it's magnetic. So try to put some paper or rock inside it. So there you go. As you can see, after I remove the screws, it just comes straight off. We are left with this part. So there's actually more T8 screws in there. I'm going to try to point it out to you, but since it's black, it's a bit difficult. So this is where you need the deep screwdriver. If you don't have one, it's going to be really difficult. As you see here, I measured it with my spoon. It's actually quite long. So there should be 5 screws, if I remember correctly. So my screwdriver is actually not reaching the hole because it's tighter in there and you need a longer tip one. So the tip for this, like I told you before, is to insert something into your magnetic head. So you can just extend your length of your screwdriver slightly, and that's enough. So the problem with this is not the length of my screwdriver, but it's the magnetic part. It's just too thick to fit into where the screw is. So here, I'm just going to get a screw, as you saw, and I just shoved it into my magnetic part just to extend my screwdriver slightly. And with that, now I can reach the screw. Please note, by doing this, if you have a weak magnetic screwdriver, you might not be able to magnetize the screw that you just removed, which does add a bit of complexity. So just be wary of that. So here you can see that my screw actually fell off my screwdriver because the magnet was weak. But trying again, it just connected. So this is the part where I regret. I put a magnetic screw inside a magnetic screwdriver head, which makes it extremely difficult for me to remove the screw. So try to put something in there that is not magnetic. So you can probably go find a small rock, put a grain of rice in there, put some paper in there to just extend your screwdriver slightly. So next, now that we removed all the screws, you just need to wiggle it a bit and lift it up, and it'll come out. You can clean these individually, and this only goes in one direction. The longer side goes towards the back. So please make a note of it before you remove it, of how it goes back in, or which direction it goes back in. So next, since we remove all the screws, the whole thing actually comes apart. I apologize for that. Actually, I lied. There's 2 screws left I've got to remove. So after removing these 2 screws, the the parts just come apart by you just pulling it apart. So just lifting up, it'll come apart. So just before you go ahead and pull apart, just make a note or pull it apart slowly so you understand how it goes back in. So this comes in 4 parts, as you can see. It's actually 5. The center comes off as well. You can remove this rubber. It's actually a foam. It's a foam gasket to make your vacuum cleaner sealed. Please be careful when you remove this, as you might rip it. And if you rip it, means your seal on your vacuum cleaner will have a leak or have a hole, which makes your vacuum cleaner power reduce. So this also goes in one way, if you didn't see me remove it before. So remember to put the gasket in correctly, as it only goes in one side, I guess. So the empty side goes with the empty side of the plastic. Be careful to not rip it, like I said previously. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. Next, you put this center part back in. So you need to align that part with the bottom. This also only goes in one direction, so if you got it wrong, it won't fit. Now, after you align it, just paste it back on the base. Same thing, remember to put the bottom with the bottom. So this is, again, we point out the bottom with the bottom. With all these products, you can actually just go clean it. I just bring it back to my backyard and get my garden hose and spray it and then scrub it. So here, to assemble again, we need to align it, the back with the back. And just push it with, use a bit of force, and I'll go in. Wiggle it left and right, and it should be fine. Now that we got this back in, you're going to have to put the screws back in. Remember, these are the deep screws. Oh, these two aren't, but the screws inside are deep. So you need to extend your screwdriver again if you need to, by putting a rock in it, or paper, or a rice grain. This is what happens when you extend your screwdriver. Your magnetic tip is a lot weaker than it normally is. So please be careful, or if you can get a longer screwdriver, then you can get a longer screwdriver. So next, remember to align this correctly. This also only goes in one way. So the part that sticks out more goes towards the back. You may notice that I have not put any screwdrivers in, so what screws I'm screwing. So when I removed the screws, I didn't remove them, I left them in place, and when I lift up the plastic purple part, it came with it, so when I put it back down, it went with it as well. You don't have to do this, but I have. So here, remember to align your notch with the notch in front. Once it's aligned, just push it down all sides. Push the bottom parts down. Make sure when you've done with it, look at it to make sure the gap around the circle parts are all even and close. So next, to close this, put the top part in first, as you can see here. Once you align the top part, then align the bottom part, and then just force it in and it'll go in. You can move it left, right, up, down, and it'll go in slowly. So here's the filter. Remember to put it back. And here's the bin. Remember to open the bin first. Remember to put it in diagonally, so because you have to put the nose or the head part in first, and then diagonally tilt it up. Remember to press the button to make sure it works. And here's the next part. I'm going to show you how to remove the back. I don't recommend anyone to remove the back. It's a really complex process and it takes a long time to do so. You might even hurt yourself to do this. So the idea, you need to spread this apart slightly. Try to get any gap. Once you receive a gap, you need to put some prying pick in, like myself, to hold the gap open. I just need to get more prying picks out. So I have not fast forwarded this part to show you that how long it actually takes and how difficult it is. So the idea is try to separate the back from the front. It will create a little gap. Once you have created the little gap, you can shove your prying pick in. And you want to shove your prying pick in to the left side and the right side of the thing, of the back part, as the reason why is there are two clips. There's a clip at the left side and the clip of the right side. So here you can see that I'm actually trying to spread apart the back from the front. And once I have obtained a gap to slip my prying pick in, I will then rotate it to the left side or the right side. This gap is actually really small. Do not put a screwdriver in it. I'll recommend you not to put a screwdriver in it. You probably won't fit. So I just damaged my pick. So my pick's not flat anymore. So I have to go get another one. So here, my pick went in. So I'm rotating it to the side. Now I have to put my pick back in again, so I can rotate it to the other side, as the clip is on the left and the right side. So it will happen to slip out a lot, as the gap isn't so big. So now that I have increased the gap, I can now use my screwdriver to pry that part open. And here we go. After you do that, you can just force it out and it comes out. So here I'm just showing you the notches. So there's a notch on the left and the right side, and that's the part that holds it together. So here there's foam. You actually can remove this foam, or whatever you want to call it, mesh, to clean. It's not really necessary. So to put this in, you cannot put the bottom part in first. It doesn't work like that. This is to show you how it doesn't work. So you have to do half-half to make it work. So the idea is to put the circle part in first, then tilt the bottom part in, and then slide it in. So as you can see here, so you want to put half-half. Once you get the circular part on the top part in the circular frame, you want to put the bottom part in first. I'm just trying to repeat the process, but I'm probably going to give up since it's just too difficult. This is why I do not recommend anyone to do it. And thanks for watching my video.